Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first session of BSBI Academic Webinar. I am Dr. Mahmoud Manafi, and I will be leading the BSBI Academic Webinars. The Academic Webinar is a new initiative from BSBI aimed at enriching our students' knowledge. In this regard, we invite some academics and experts to join and share their insights. Today, we are discussing about an interesting topic, shareholders versus stakeholder strategy. I chose this topic for two main reasons. First, comparing shareholder and stakeholder approach leads us to the root of sustainability concept. Also, it justifies why some companies are concentrating on sustainability. As you know, it requires a lot of time and expense. I'm honored to invite and introduce Dr. Mahmoud Rajablu from Canada. He's an expert in the field of the management and economic science. At the first and foremost, I want to express my gratitude for accepting our invitation. Your recent interview from different channels caught my attention. That's why I wanted to ask you to share your latest finding with our students. As a good news, today, two dear colleagues also will be with us, Dr. Camila and Dr. Sabina. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello. Pleasure meeting you. Thank you. I'm honored to be here, and thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to our discussion today.
Okay, Dr. Camila, do you want to say something?
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. And Dr. Mahmoud, thank you so much for being with us. It's an honor to meet you, and hopefully we're going to have a great meeting today. Thank you.
Dr. Sabina, please.
My apologies, my headphones don't work, so if you don't hear me, I apologize in advance, but nice to see you all in this place, and I look forward to your presentation and to dive into the topic.
Thank you so much. Before this meeting, I had a short discussion with our colleague, and Dr. Camila and Dr. Sabina, I think they are going to start by some questions, Dr. Rajablu. So please, Dr. Camila, maybe you can start.
Yes, so I've actually checked up a few of your articles, Dr. Mahmoud, and I know that you've had a lot of interviews and articles as well on conventional and versus unconventional economy and shareholder versus stakeholder as well. So would you like to elaborate a little bit that for us before we start our presentation?
Sure. Over the past 2 decades, by practice, in fact, I realized, and it came to my attention, that stakeholders and taking all players into consideration can help not only the stakeholders and surrounding environment, community, and everyone else, also it benefits the business itself. However, taking courses, training, and educating myself at master's and doctorate level, I realized that it is true, and it's proven through theories, knowledge, and practices that researchers and practitioners have offered to us. So this is how it caught my attention, and I dived deeper. So I started researching, and through empirical research and practices, I also wrote those articles that you mentioned and had those interviews as well. So this is how we're here, and I'm here. And I believe this is a better approach. If we are to create a better world for all, we need to take that unconventional thinking, the power of unconventional thinking, and a stakeholders versus shareholders approach.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Dr. Sabina, do you want to bring up something, or we can go for presentation to see presentation, and then if something comes to your mind, you can ask, Doctor. Okay, thank you. Dr. Rajablu, please start. Okay.
Okay, for today's discussion, I have a slide that I would like to share, and then we just walk through the slide and see those topics that we can elaborate more in more depth. Okay, I have permission to share. Can you see my slides?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. I just need to make some adjustments here. And okay. So the content, we have 5 sections here, starting with a short background and problem. Next will be shareholder capitalism versus stakeholder capitalism, followed by shareholder corporate governance versus stakeholder corporate governance. Shareholder strategy in action. We'll come up with some examples, real-world examples versus stakeholder strategy in action. And finally, sustainability, ESG, and the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals through a stakeholder approach. Okay. Perhaps the first issue that we're facing is unfair distribution of wealth. In 2021 and 2022, the world generated $42 trillion of wealth. 1% of the population earned 2/3 of this wealth, while the remaining 99% earned only 1/3 of this $42 trillion. The next, and perhaps the most important issue that we're facing, is the exploitation of the environment. The Stockholm Resilience Center came up with a very nice platform, which is known as planetary boundaries, that presents a set of 9 planetary boundaries within which humanity can continue to develop and thrive for generations to come. And I like to invite audience to visit their sites and take a look at the data they have come up with. It shows how bad we have performed as human beings and how much harm we have made to environment and planet. The center's previous director, he said, we don't know how long we can keep transgressing these key boundaries before combined pressures lead to irreversible change and harm. In summary, the issues are poverty and unequal wealth and power distribution, environmental exploitation, resource and labor abuse, economic instability, financial crisis, human rights violation, wars and conflicts over wealth and resources, and much more. Basically, we are living in poly-crisis era. Crisis one after other, which conventional economic systems with their broken business environment play a key role in the ongoing global crisis. The traditional systems have also unsustainable corporate governance, which results in concentration of power and wealth in the hands of few. Undemocratic approach, basically. This concentration of power and wealth facilitates and contributes to other problems such as scandals and corruptions. We all know what happened back then, for example, with major big corporations in the US, WorldCom, Enron, and name it. Bankruptcies, unemployment, poverty, global warming, financial crisis, and much more are the result of this undemocratic and concentration of power and wealth in the hands of few, in opposed to broader stakeholder approach. The two old systems that we're talking about are liberal market shareholder capitalism and the state totalitarian capitalism. For example, United States is a good example for liberal market shareholder approach, and China is a good example of a state totalitarian capitalism. Now, despite the advancements they have made, both of them, these two systems are also accountable for the polycrisis the world is living in as well. So now, because of their bad performance, researchers and practitioners, they have come up with new economic ideas such as natural capitalism, stakeholder capitalism, sustainable capitalism, donut economics, circular economies, conscious capitalism, sharing economies, steady state economies, regenerative economy, and etc. Unlike the old systems, these new economic ideas prioritize creating value through social and environmental welfare and sustainability, stakeholder value creation and governance, as well as a stakeholder ecosystem and living systems, plus taking holistic approach in opposed to reductionist approach. Now, with this, we can dive deeper comparing shareholder capitalism with a stakeholder capitalism. Shareholder capitalism has roots in Adam Smith's ideas of invisible hands and wealth of a nation, as well as Milton Friedman's doctrine, also known as shareholder theory. Milton Friedman wrote an article and published it in New York Times in 1970. In that article, he came up with a strong message and said, the social responsibility of business is to increase its profit. That's all. Meaning businesses have no responsibility for community, society, and environment. Now, from the other hand, shareholder capitalism, with roots in libertarian ideas, is a system in which businesses prioritize serving the interests of all stakeholders, including shareholders, employees, customers, community, suppliers, environment, and all other stakeholders that can affect or be affected by businesses' performance. Now, what do we mean by stakeholders? A stakeholder is about who or what really counts. In 1984, Edward Freeman defined the stakeholders as any group or individual who can affect or be affected by the achievement of the organization's objectives. However, as time passed, other researchers added to this definition, which I'm also in favor of that. For example, there is another definition. The stakeholders are individuals or groups or organizations who have property rights or an interest in form of self or moral or human rights in the organization and can affect or be affected by the organization's activity and mission. This element of human right is an important one, I believe. And I think corporations and companies should add this human right in their policies as well. So, why serving all stakeholders? See, we live in a dynamic and a complex world. Okay. And this complexity is one of the key reasons that we should take all stakeholders into account. Of course, there are many other elements, but this complexity that I'm going to focus on is one of the important ones. Ignoring the complexity out there can cause catastrophic results. Here is an example. In this diagram, we see the complexity that the US military were facing in Afghanistan. It was published in New York Times and it was drawn by 4-star general, US head of US military in Afghanistan and NATO. However, the complexity, I believe, could be even more than that. We don't see those secret elements behind the scene. in this diagram, perhaps. But if we ignore the complexity out there and all parties that are involved, the result can be catastrophic, which was, and now millions of people in Afghanistan paying the price. To deal with complexity, we also need to take systems approach. With systems approach, we see entire elements that are involved. We see all variables and the relationships in between, and then we can respond through creativity and innovation. So complexity and systems approach are two important elements. With this, we arrive at comparing shareholder approach versus a stakeholder approach. Basically, shareholder approach is a reductionism approach, a method that ignores many elements, many even key elements, and focuses on a small group of players. By doing that, it simplifies the problem out there. By simplifying the problem out there, it results in offering insufficient solutions to socio-economic problems and the environmental crisis that we are facing. Now, from the other hand, a stakeholder approach is a more holistic approach, an approach that tries to take all elements into consideration, recognizes the complexity out there, the dynamism out there, and uses systems approach, innovates, and then offers a more accurate answers to socio-economic and environmental problems. So next, business in society. We arrive at this topic. Businesses are vehicles for socio-economic development. When we talk about business, we talk about business in society. We talk about business on planet Earth. We are not conducting business in isolation. We cannot do that. We are not conducting business in another planet, for example, Jupiter or any other planet. We are conducting business on this planet, right? So to do business, we need capital. How do we define capital? What is capital? If you ask anyone, what is capital? They talk about fund, money, financial market. However, I can see that Dr. Sabrina is shaking her hand. That's not enough. Fund perhaps is one of the sources of capital. The triple source of capital, the three main sources of capital are planet, people, and fund. In fact, planet is the mother and source for all other capitals, right? So with this, I would like to offer a question. The question is whether the capital in form of funds and money appreciates the value of the other two capitals, people and planet, that are key enablers as well. Let's don't forget, by the interaction of all these three capitals, we generate wealth, right? Now, so as I said, by the interaction of these three capitals, we generate wealth. But is wealth distributed among all these three in a fair way? Are we doing that? No, perhaps not. If we were doing that, we wouldn't have all those problems that I listed at the beginning. So if we are to create a better world for all, we need to recognize and accept and redefine what capital is and how wealth is generated, and then distribute that wealth in a fair way among all three groups of capitals. There are other forms of capitals that, we also need to take those into consideration as well, right? Such as knowledge, culture, and so on, right? Now, the next important topic that is in line with previous is the triple bottom line. So we talked about the three sources of capital. Now we are arriving at the triple bottom line theory. According to this theory, instead of one bottom line, which companies are focusing on, that is their profit, there should be 3 bottom lines. And those 3 bottom lines are for people, planet, and companies. Therefore, companies should commit to focusing as much as they can on social and environmental concerns as they do on their bottom line on profit. Right? Now, next, I'd like to offer a few questions with this argument. Right? Companies require raw materials to produce and market their finished goods. Now, where do companies get or obtain these raw materials from? Obviously, they source raw materials from the planet, isn't it? And planet serves as ultimate source of all forms of capital. The next key question is, who manufactures and processes these goods? Employees. And employees are an integral part of the community and society. Once we produce products, once companies produce finished goods, to whom these companies sell their products to? They sell them to customers within society, isn't it? So with this argument, we arrive at this. CSR is not about generating profit, as Friedman said, which occurs through the exploitation and harm of the planet and people, and then expecting governments and NGOs to come and clean up companies' mess. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked, and it will not work unless we change that approach, right? A true CSR is entirely different than what Milton Friedman said. True CSR means companies should uphold the principle of the triple source of capital and the triple bottom line theory by incorporating them into their corporate governance and operations. So talking of corporate governance, let's take a look at how corporate governance is playing among shareholder companies versus stakeholder businesses. Decision-making is an important element within each and every company. And there are 2 ways that we can structure that. Integration of decision control with decision management, or separation of decision control from decision management. What do I mean by that? Under shareholder approach or shareholder model, which is a 1-tier board model, board of directors consists of executives and non-executives members, meaning CEO and C-level executives can also sit on board of directors with voting rights. In fact, many companies in the United States, CEO is at the same time chairman of the company. This hands too much power in the hand of one person or few people. Too much power in hands of one or few people resulted in many scandals and corruptions. Right? Now, with the stakeholder model, which is a 2-tier model, and it's practiced in most Western European countries. In fact, in most European countries, the 1-tier model is illegal. Okay? Board of directors consists of only non-executive members. And then we have executive officers who manage the decisions. Board of directors is responsible for decision-making and decision control and monitoring the implementation of decisions by executive officers. Having this model, it splits the power, it distributes power among management within corporate structure. Now, next, we need to look at a stakeholder strategy versus shareholder strategy versus a stakeholder strategy in action. Now, these strategies are highly influenced by corporate governance, highly influenced whether we have 1-tier corporate governance or two-tier stakeholder approach. One example is BP's Deepwater Horizon. Okay. They also made a movie from this sad event, which took place in Gulf of Mexico. It was the largest offshore oil spill in history on April 20, 2010. It caused severe environmental, human health, and economic consequences. So management within BP decided to cut on safety by $1 million per day. So they were going to save $365 million in favor of shareholders. As a result, a massive explosion took place. 11 people died on that site. The ecosystem destruction took place. And as a result, not only the environment and people suffered. I believe 5 states in the United States, their coastline was covered by oil spill, and they lost their businesses. If they were living on tourist business, they lost their tourist businesses. So BP's stock dropped from $60 to $30. Lawsuits were open in courts, and penalties, court gave BP penalties. And as a result, the damage to BP shareholder was $100 billion. So taking shareholder approach and trying to capitalize only for shareholders can have negative impact on interest and bottom line for shareholders as well, right? If they would have kept that $1 million a day on safety, right? This wouldn't happen, and the company wouldn't suffer and wouldn't lose $100 billion. Now, I want to give a little background on BP. This BP, if we go back in 1908, British discovered oil in south of Iran. In 1909, the Anglo-American Oil Company was formed to explore oil in south of Iran. So 42 years later, in 1951, the democratically elected prime minister of time in Iran, Dr. Mossadegh, he nationalized the oil. And then the company was changed from Anglo-Iranian Oil Company to British Petroleum, right? So if we look at the history and performance of the companies, these companies performing shareholder approach and trying to only focus on capitalizing for shareholders, implementing Friedman's doctrine, we can see how they can have negative impact on different regions, different countries, as well as their own shareholders. Another example, it's not just the companies, even governments can do that. Governments also take shareholder approach. For example, the Gezi Park in May 2013 in Turkey is another example. The city of Istanbul decided to destroy a park and turn it into a shopping mall, as well as a military barracks from Ottoman era. So by ignoring stakeholders, who were stakeholders? The students who were sitting in that park every afternoon, every day, boys and girls, talking and chatting. Who else were stakeholders? Environmentalists were stakeholders. They were all against this decision, but they ignored the stakeholders. One day, they rushed into the park and started destroying 600 trees in that park. The result was catastrophic. They had nationwide demonstrations. 22 people killed, over 8,000 injured, 3,000 arrested. Turkish lira lost value. That year, tourism industry in Turkey declined, and it cost Turkish economy billions of dollars. This is another example of taking shareholder approach. Now, today we are facing the fall of shareholder capitalism, and it's true. The 2008 global financial crisis was a blow to shareholder capitalism. In 2015, world leaders adopted the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The OECD and other international organizations have already begun promoting a stakeholder economy. In 2019, top US CEOs at the Business Roundtable redefined their purpose, redefined their company's purpose and corporation's purpose, declaring that companies should serve their stakeholders, not only their shareholders. In 2020, the World Economic Forum also issued a new platform based on a stakeholder capitalism. So this shows that how we're moving, gradually, we're moving forward with a stakeholder approach. We're staying away from shareholder approach, and people want that. I have seen within universities that students and graduates, they come up with a database that they show how companies perform. If you want to buy a product from a company, let's say you want to purchase a product, you can go to that database and see how that company performs, whether that company takes a stakeholder approach, whether that company pays attention to ESG, pays attention to green environment, pays attention to communities and takes their interest or not, right? And then make a wise decision. These are examples of some of companies that have shifted or taken a stakeholder approach. Some of these companies issue shares to their employees as well. A good company that I can name is Mondragon Corporation. It's a Spanish-based company. As we can see, the message is humanity at work. And the beauty of this company, it's a cooperative, actually, cooperative approach. And their corporate governance is based on multi-stakeholder cooperatives. Their purpose is social transformation, not only the bottom line of the company. And in this company, we see generations who work in this company. Parents work in this company, and then their children working in this company. It was founded 68 years ago in 1956. According to recent data, Mondragon consists of 270 companies active in 4 areas, including industries, banks, retail, and education. It employs 75,000 employees who are also shareholders with voting rights, forming the world's largest democratically run company. Even employees vote for their managers and elect their managers. Perhaps we need more of companies like that. The next topic is sustainability and ESG. It's the hottest topic nowadays. International organizations promote that. Many companies also promote that, as well as United Nations. The world's leaders have committed for sustainability and ESG. Now, if we compare which approach can help us achieve sustainability and ESG, shareholder or a stakeholder, which model? Let's take a look at the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It has 169 specific targets and 232 measurable indicators. Research studies indicate that achieving the UN's 17 SDG and its 169 associated targets is more effective, and it's better realized through a stakeholder value creation and a stakeholder governance, corporate governance. Now, there are articles, ISI high-ranking, published in ISI high-ranking journals, and these research studies prove how stakeholder approach can help achieving the UN 17 sustainable goals in opposed to shareholder. The studies have also shown that multi-stakeholder partnerships play a crucial role in mobilizing and sharing knowledge, expertise, technologies, and financial resources to support the achievement of the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Now, with this, I would like to offer two questions. Are the new stakeholder and unconventional economic models the final destination for the movement that aims to make the world a better place? Does the achievement of sustainability and ESG resolves all our problems, or these achievement of ESG, sustainability, and a stakeholder model as a set of corrective measures that can lead to development of even more effective models to ensure a world free from unfair distribution of wealth and power, a world free of poverty, a world free of environmental exploitation and economic instability and polycrisis that we are living in? So these are the questions that we need to think about. Schools need to think about. Entrepreneurs, business leaders, and those who care, and those who would like to join the movement that aims to make the world a better place for everyone. That perhaps achieving ESG sustainability and using a stakeholder approach is a base, it's a framework that can help us to make the world a better place. But as we know, the evolution never stops. The world is complex, and day by day, it becomes more dynamic and more complex. So perhaps these baselines can help us to develop more effective models and move forward. And one other question I would like to offer in this presentation is, can we achieve true democracy, true workplace democracy, and fair distribution of wealth among the three main groups of capital, people, planet, and the supplier of funds, or no? Thank you. I guess I'm at the end of my slide. However, if you do have questions, I'm more than happy to answer your questions.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Rajablu. I really enjoy. I had read a lot of things about those topics, but to be honest, it was first time I saw very nice direction and from the theoretical part, I mean economics, to sustainability. I really enjoyed. Thank you so much. Let's see if Dr. Sabina or Dr. Camila have some question. Please, maybe we can start by Dr. Sabina.
Yeah. First, I have one comment and one question. I would like to thank you for addressing the corporate social responsibility, corporate governance. I myself, along with the academic career, had been pursuing also a corporate career in one of the largest corporations in Croatia, over 7,300 employees. I worked in a management board office, and I can tell you that, you know, we can write the rules and have corporate governance, but when the crisis comes, then it's a mess all over the place. And I can tell you from my own experience, I had been dealing with the crisis of strike of 2,000 employees at a time, and no rules applied. So, but thank you. You know, there is no, I would say, good solution or maybe a guidance, because sometimes these guidance are just, you know, a dead letter on the paper, and have most of the time no real, I would say, effect in real life. I mean, this is my experience. This was in Croatia, so I don't know, maybe somewhere else is different, but I can tell you that from my experience, when the strike was, you know, on, I mean, no corporate governance, nothing applied. Okay, so no rules. Thank you for a wonderful and interesting presentation. I would just like you to answer us the main question: which of these approaches actually leads to sustainability that we all kind of strive to?
Sure. You're right. You know, when problems occur and when when companies face difficulties and crises, they may take trade-off approach, right? Survival is first. They may lay off people instead of taking other approach. They may ignore environment because they want to survive. There is difficulty and they may go bankrupt. However, in difficulties, the short answer is trade-off, but the better answer is creativity and innovation. We need to innovate, not take the shortcut. I remember a story told by once Edward Freeman shared a good story. He said there was a manufacturing company in United States approach in one of their locations. Community and people complained about pollution and so on and so forth. So the CEO tells the head of division and their employees and engineers that if we need to do something about this, otherwise we have to shut down. So that is not good. I mean, many employees will lose their jobs and so on and so forth. And engineers were, well, we cannot change, and the way we produce and the system, this is the best way, and still we will have pollution and so on and so forth. But anyways, that is not the answer. It's we cannot harm society and we cannot continue like that. The answer was from CEO, and we got to do something about it. So after a while, engineers came back to CEO and said, we found a solution. We can innovate and we can resolve the pollution, the issue. And not only that, we can cut the cost of production as well. So you see, companies should stop taking shortcuts, should stop trade-offs. They should start thinking and innovating. Perhaps that is the best approach. And a stakeholder approach, as I shared in previous slides as well, research studies have proven that through a stakeholder approach, through more holistic approach, through systems thinking, right? We can, through understanding the complexity out there, in opposed to simplification, we can offer better answer to problems we are facing. We can achieve those targets that UN has defined as sustainable goals. We can achieve ESG and make the world a better place, not only for human beings, for all species on this planet.
Thank you for the answer. I agree with you, no shortcuts, and the holistic approach is what we should all focus on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what about Dr. Camilla? Do you have any
Yes,
questions?
thank you so much, Dr. Mahmoud. It was such an insightful presentation. I come from the tourism industry, so it was very interesting to see how the ESG frameworks actually work, because in most, in the tourism sector, usually ESG frameworks, they lack uniformity and they're not really related, or they don't reflect the specific needs of the tourism sector. So it was very interesting to see how much work has to be done in that sector and how much work this needs in general. I do have one more question. Since we're BSBI and this is a business school, so I wanted to ask you, from your point of view, how do you think, or what is the role of business schools to help bring out this positive change to economy and businesses?
Thank you for the wonderful question.
Very nice question. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe schools, universities and business schools especially, they can help through research and development studies, research studies, and through case studies, through partnership with industries. They can help us, they can help the world to come up with better approaches, better models, better techniques, better tools to deal with complexity and problems out there. That's one. Second, schools can produce entrepreneurs and business leaders and give them tools they need to help them make the world a better place. They can produce and train and educate leaders who can make the future more sustainable for everyone, not only for human, also for environment. So these two are the main two approaches that the schools can take. And I believe there are schools taking those approaches. And perhaps if we have all the schools and business schools doing that and training and offering and graduating and providing leaders and business leaders to the communities, to society that can help dealing with problems that we're facing, problems such as unfair distribution of wealth, problems with poverty, problems with many other crises with respect to environment and so on and so forth. So the role of schools, in short, is crucial and very important. And I believe the schools can help a lot. And I would like to thank you, Dr. Manafi, Dr. Kamalia, and Dr. Sabrina for today's discussion. And as for the topics, I think one of the very important topics is execution. We have come up with theories and knowledge, but the execution is still problematic. Execution is the area that gets most CEOs fired. Your school are doing great.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mahmoud. Thank you.
Okay, with this, we have come to the end of the first session of the BSBI Academic Webinar. I hope you enjoyed the topic. We are looking forward to bringing another interesting topic in our next session. So keep learning, keep growing, and see you in our next journey of discovery. Thank you.